Hey guys, Dave from Nerdarchy, for nerds, by nerds, and today I am hanging out with the Scarlet Moth from coming to us all the way from Australia in the middle of the night.
Yep.
How are you doing this morning?
Not too bad. I'm actually feeling pretty awake for 4 a.m., so that's always good.
So I found you on Twitter, and I actually might have found you before that because some of the live plays that I've seen, I recognized you from, and you've been in a couple high profile games, and you're on Twitter tweeting about D&D all the time. So I was like, hey, let's connect and talk some D&D.
Yeah, I am
We
very
were talking a little bit before we got started, and you're in like a ton of D&D games right now.
yeah. I'm in three, then I've got one which I'm DMing, which is on hold at the moment. So it's my life.
So, what was the game you were running?
I am running Curse of Strahd. It's just finding the time at the moment to run it and to actually get all my players in the right mindset for it. It's a hard module to run, especially with I've got a bunch of new players, but I'm making it work.
What do you find challenging about it?
Um, I'm finding getting the players to get into the mindset of this is a gothic horror adventure quite challenging. Though I found that bringing in a few new players did help with that because they don't know what to expect in a D&D game. So it's been good to take them by surprise, and then getting rid of the player who was just min-maxing and not wanting to roleplay helped.
D&D and horror is a really hard combination, in my opinion. It's
Yeah,
literally a game based around we find monsters, kill them, and take their stuff. And in horror, you're playing a game where, for horror to work, the players or the characters, they have to respect the trope and the theme.
yeah. I think with Strahd, it's all about making sure that your players realize that they're fighting to get on an even playing field with the monsters, and that they're starting at a disadvantage. And it's, I guess, trying to make them see that this isn't your typical Forgotten Realms style campaign. You're not just gonna go out into the forest and fight rats. If you do that, you're probably going to be bitten by werewolves or something bad will happen.
And that is the trick, is getting, like you said, getting those players to respect that and be afraid of the monsters. So like
Yes.
and it can only happen one of two ways, and it's like they have to play their characters that way and buy into the game, or you as the GM have to be like really heavy handed and just throw things at them they can't possibly beat, and come up with the first couple times creative ways of not just TPKing them, or unless you're a really hardcore and just like you want to show them, right, prison rule style D&D where you just kill one of the characters right away just so they know.
Yeah. Well, one with the encounter at the windmill, which is a very famously difficult early level encounter with some night hags in Curse of Strahd, one of my players actually wanted to change the character she was playing because she wanted to use the character she was playing at the time in the Planescape campaign, which I'm playing in. So what we organized was for I organized with her ahead of time that her character was going to get plane shifted by one of the night hags to one of the gate cities in the Outlands around Sigil, and the other characters didn't know that was happening at all. So this was also a chaotic neutral cleric of Umberley who didn't follow the social norms. So this windmill was going up on fire because they had decided to set it on fire to try to drive the night hags out, not realizing there were children still on the top floor. So the cleric and the barbarian had run up to the top to try and save the children, realized, oh, we set fire to the place, we can't get them out that way. So she just took the children and looked at the other characters on the ground, went, well, catch. And so she threw two children out the third story of the windmill before being plane shifted by night hags. So that was a pretty good way to go.
That is a great way to get rid of the character. Did you make them roll to catch the children?
Yep. Luckily, both of them were caught. But that was the moment where my players were like, "Oh shit, we have to catch these characters." Oh, sorry for my language.
That's okay. It's fine. We've been learning to swear.
Oh, good.
It's all good. Well, see, mages, make sure you have that feather fall spell handy. You never know when incoming children are going to happen.
Yes. Well, it was time for them to leave the nest, so.
Brutal. So, do you prefer pre-written adventures or homebrew stuff?
I do like a bit of both. I prefer running pre-written stuff and then just changing things and playing with the material, just because they're such beautifully written adventures, and they've had a lot of time and effort put into making them really great. But then just tweaking with it here and there to kind of fit it for my players. But I do love playing in homebrew stuff because I'm never sure what to expect.
So in the chat, Raven has made the bold statement that all Aussies swear.
Yes, it is very common here just to hear a lot of swearing. So I'm not very censored.
Well, that's fine. We're not. We shoot for kind of a soft PG-13-ish. Yeah, there's definitely plenty of sexual innuendos has been dropped, swear words, other adult themes. As a matter of fact, I was like horrified the first time we went to a convention and we had this little kid, Eli, following us around playing in all of our games. And he's like, "I watch your channel." And I'm looking at his dad going, "Why do you let him watch our channel?" It's bad parenting, man. Bad parenting. He's like, "Yeah, what are you going to do?" So Kenyatta, Dave, master of the F-bomb. Hey, it has gotten a little bit cleaned up since Ryan has left. He would swear even more than me, so it happens.
It happens.
You're also
they gotta learn someday.
You're very much into cosplay and visual arts.
Yeah,
and
so
award winner.
Yes. So I'm currently studying for my Bachelor of Visual Arts at university here in Australia. That's always been. I've been doing art ever since I can remember, and I've always just loved doing fantasy and characters and all of that. Then cosplay was something which I started near the end of high school for me. So I started it quite late because some people start it really young, but it was good because I was able to really start turning like video game characters or characters who I loved into reality, and that was a different outlet to art. And now I've sort of tied into all my interests, like D&D and video games.
So when you when you show up for your games, do you show up in costume?
I have done a game in costume, which was the one with Lisa Chen and Mazmataz, which was our Christmas game because we all decided to take elements of our characters to dress up. I don't normally dress up for games, but I have considered it a lot before.
What about oh, did you say? I'm sorry. I was reading the chat and listening at the same time. It's a terrible habit of mine. Did you say LARP?
I haven't tried LARP, but I have a lot of friends who do it. So I have considered doing it, but then that's going to be another time sink and less time to do D&D. So
yeah, well, it's kind of like when we were gaming, like I want to say like 15, 20 years ago. Half of our group would also LARP. So so they would do both. And my partner Ted in Nerdarchy, he ran a LARP for like 5 years. But it seems like if you're already like doing cosplay and you play D&D, it seems like the natural progression.
Yeah. Problem is it's just another money sink. And it's just like, well, I guess I won't eat this week, but I've got this cool set of armor.
You only LARP as anime characters and other things you've already dressed as.
Yep. I'll just run around as Fall from Grace from Planescape. It's fine.
There you go. That works. So what has been your favorite cosplay?
Oh, I've probably got two favorites. Most recently, the updated version of Strix I did from Dice Camera Action, just because I tried as much as I could to copy what Holly had done in her costume and even try a few new things. Like I made the shoes out of leather in like the 13th century style of footwear and felted everything, felted the witch hat and cast like the staff to have lights in it and everything. And the other cosplay, which is probably my favorite, is a League of Legends cosplay, which I don't play that as much nowadays. I'm mainly playing D&D now, but that was like a mermaid costume, which the tail could zip up over my feet, so I looked like I had the tail on, and that was probably my favorite costume before Strix.
Yeah, I was actually looking at that going, huh, I wonder how she gets around. But zippers, yeah. Right, zippers.
There's a zipper up the front, so it is constructed like a skirt, but then I can just zip it up over my feet and flap my tail.
Was that one of your favorite characters to play?
Yes, she was my favorite character to play. So it was, I tend to lean towards cosplaying the characters who I play more often as, or the characters who I relate to more. I probably won't pick something to cosplay unless I do like the character or the thing it's from a lot.
So, oh, thanks, Matt. I was trying to remember the name of the character. Nami.
Yes.
Nami. I used to play for a while, and my son had been harping on me for the first like 2-3 years of Nerdarchy. You should do gameplays. You should do gameplays. I'm like, we're not doing gameplays.
I mean, I would stream League, but I never was very good. I loved playing it, but more often it was defeat than victory.
Yeah, same here. I'm not. I was never that great at it. I just enjoyed playing it. And my mom has never been done by so many 12-year-olds in my life. So, or her, for that matter.
Oh, it gets like that, and especially
they get angry.
Now, as a support, it was usually you're copying the brunt of the abuse for not doing enough.
And there's specific rules on how you're supposed to play. And I don't follow any of those. I just play how I want to play. And that really makes people angry.
Yeah, but hey, it's a game.
That's what I see. That's how I see it as well. And I pretty much just play. I don't really chat very much while I'm playing. But my buddy who I think he got me into the game, he would always be in the chat with the other players. And then they would find out like how old he was because he's my age. And then they make fun of him for being old, so it's kind of funny.
It's better than being 12. No one likes being 12.
Yeah, I guess. I don't know. I don't think I would want to do it over again. But then again, if you could go back knowing what you know,
yeah,
there's definitely something to that. So that's kind of that's weird. There's a thing now. People are cosplaying people that are costuming from a D&D game.
Yeah, and like I find that really like so much fun to think of like what the character would wear if they don't have a set appearance, or why they would wear a certain thing. And that was part of the fun of Strix, because she has so many items on her which she collected over the course of the campaign, and thinking like, oh, how am I going to make her cloak look more dirty and rugged, or how am I going to make it look like she's been wearing these clothes for a very long time. And I don't know, I just find the idea of being able to add your own touches to a costume really, really fun.
Yeah, make it your own, not.
Yes, and still have it be just as valid, and it's great.
Are you watching a lot of streamed games?
Um, I, th- I have ended up watching a lot of streamed games. So the one I'm watching most often is Dice Camera Action because I'm pretty involved in the Waffle Crew community. I do also watch the C Team, which is the Acquisitions Inc. spin-off, which I love. It's got some very funny players and they get into some great situations. And of course, I'm waiting for Critical Role to come back at the moment.
I think you and a lot of other folks. Do you have any
Yes.
speculations?
I'm just excited for people to play Tieflings. So,
they
so I really hope there are one or two.
they checked your box there. Well, it looks like there's definitely going to be
Yes.
a tiefling and maybe some kind of kobold or something.
I find when people play the more interesting races, I really find that a lot of fun. Like, because you see Tieflings um, some of the time, but they're still not as common as the humans, the half elves, the elves, the gnomes. But I want to see people playing more Genasi, playing kobolds, or playing like more Goliaths. Um, I've recently made a character for my Planescape game, which is an Avarial, so one of the winged elves, which is currently in the Unearthed Arcana, so that's a lot of fun. And it's always fun to mess with your DM by having a fly speed.
Yeah, yeah. We're almost there. We can like field a whole party of flying characters. I mean, we got the Aarakocra, the Varial, you have the Tiefling variant.
Yeah, and then you have your bards with the mandolin, so you can cast the fly spell, or you have your characters with the winged boots or with witches' brooms.
I think when the Varial Elf came out, we are talking about now, now we can put out like the party at first level that's flying because the internet gets in an uproar about fly speeds.
Oh yeah, that's
So
what, because in Adventurers League you can't play an Aarakocra because of the fly speed, and probably can't play an Avarial either. But
well,
I
no, you
know.
definitely can't because it's Unearthed Arcana.
Yes,
Player's Handbook
but
+1.
so
I not that I've played much in AL. Although I did see we have an AL expert in the chat somewhere. I did see Lisa pop up her head.
oh, Lisa, she's just started working for AL, so wishing her all the best for that. She's
Oh
pretty
yeah,
amazing.
she's gonna do awesome. I'm sure. Just the conversation I had with her, she is so immersed in the whole AL culture. Shallender has a question for you. What is your favorite C team character?
Oh, that's a very hard one. I mean, I've cosplayed Walnut and I love Walnut. Oh, this is like trying to get me to choose my favorite child.
Actually,
Um,
it's probably harder than that. It's easy to pick your favorite child, especially depending
oh
on.
yeah, it's like trying to pick my favorite dog.
There you go.
Yeah. Uh, well, I really do like Walnut and her whole character arc. I find the way that she's played very fascinating, but I do love Rosie B. Stinger. I'd love my badass grandma.
Yeah, that sounds like something that would be hard not to love. I unfortunately I don't watch many streamed games or any streamed games really. I just don't have blocks of like 3 to 5 hours to set aside, which makes
Yeah,
it tough.
that's the hardest thing. But I usually will put it on in the background whilst I'm drawing or whilst I'm sewing something and just listen to it, which that's the great thing about D&D is that there are so many just podcasts or mostly games which you just need to listen into. So it makes it easier for people who have no time.
Yeah, no, I agree. And I find a lot of people that do that stuff that they have jobs or things that they can do and listen while they work. It does make it a ton easier. My friend Jen from Pixelscapes, I'll throw her under the bus a little bit here. She actually speeds it up a little bit.
Yeah, I've had people who puts Critical Role on 1.5 speed to try and get through it.
Yeah, yeah.
And then they have these really weird moments of like Matt Mercer making these noises and they just can't, they have to pause because they can't stop laughing because it's been sped up.
Yeah, yeah. So it sounds like a chipmunk doing it.
Yep.
Absolutely. Kyle Ellis has a question for you. Do you prefer costumes with more accessories or ones that are more like regular clothes?
Definitely ones with more accessories. I just love making things. That's why I cosplay, is because I love making clothing, making little bits and pieces, and having a costume which does have a bit more detail is usually what I'll lean towards. Or if it is a simpler costume, I'll try to actually put more effort into it, even if people aren't going to see the effort. Because
Uh,
yeah, that's what I like about doing it.
do you like creating this stuff more or wearing it more?
Um, Probably creating it actually, because sometimes wearing it, it's just you're being weighed down by everything, and it's really hot or really cold, and you can't go to the toilet because you have to take everything off. And
Yeah, I can imagine that'd be a bit of an issue.
yep, uh, all cosplayers know the pain, but there are some characters who I'll I love cosplaying them as much as I loved making their outfits, like Strix being one of them. Lots of D&D characters being that now.
So we have another question. Kenyatta, thanks for grabbing it. Hey guys, if you have questions, just throw a question in front of it. It makes it a lot easier for me to pick them out. This one's from Lisa. What tips do
Hi,
you
Lisa.
have for someone who wants to try cosplaying but is 100% intimidated?
Um, just give it a shot. Honestly, you don't even need to be making everything yourself. Probably the cosplayer's um, best friend is op shops. Like I'm not sure what you guys have over there. Um, just buying secondhand clothing, altering it is a great way to start out. Going to like your Joann's or your Michaels to get materials and just picking things up along the way. Because I go to dollar stores or secondhand stores a lot nowadays, and if I see something which I think is going to work, I'll just pick it up. Because that was half of Strix as well, because of all the little items on her. Like I bought some tiny teacups secondhand. I bought these fabric offcuts and bits and pieces. So it's just about trying to think outside the box with what you're looking for. And then if you want to start sewing, just I would recommend getting just a basic sewing machine. I know you can get sewing machines from IKEA, so that would probably be a good place to start. And just look, uh, the internet has a lot of tutorials. It's a great database. Community has just been entirely founded online. You can go to websites like cosplaytutorial.com, which have a huge database of tutorials for making anything you can think of. So it's just
That
about
is
doing your
true.
research and looking.
We do live in a golden age for whatever it is you want to know. You know, if you're willing to sift, the information is definitely there. Alex has a question for you. Do you prefer writing, cosplaying, or pictorial art more when in fandom?
Um, that depends. I'll more frequently do just drawing or fan art, just because it's something which I should be doing every day, being an art student, and which I just find it's a nice outlet and quite relaxing. But I do find that the cosplays can often uh, grab more attention. But I do like combining them together. Like I've been creating a lot of character reference sheets for some of the Waffle Crew characters so that other people can start cosplaying them. So it's nice to be able to look at things from various perspectives. But I'd say I definitely do art more often nowadays.
So what do you like to draw?
Uh, Mainly characters. I've always done portraits, and I, I just like drawing other people's characters or my own characters or the fantasy creatures. Like I love drawing owlbears or all these fantastical creatures from D&D.
So you're the person at the table that always gets like sequestered to draw everyone's character.
Yes, or I'm the person who'll draw people's characters and then surprise them with it.
Oh, that's even better.
So it's pretty good.
So where did your love of tieflings start?
Uh, I have no idea, honestly. I love the idea of them and the fact that there's so much you can do with them because they're supposed to be these social outcasts and they're supposed to be one way, but you can either play on that or you can like completely subvert that. So I've got two tiefling characters who I'm playing regularly, and they could not be more opposite. So I have in Power Score's game Val or Valiant, she's a shadow sorcerer tiefling, but she is outgoing and happy-go-lucky, and she always has a very sunny disposition. So I built her on the idea of she looks one way and has powers that are one way, but she acts completely different.
That's what I was gonna
So I
say.
like,
Like that's a pun on what she is.
yeah, that's half the fun is making characters for me who subvert expectations or like are the complete opposite of what their powers are. Because I made a before this was while it was still in Unearthed Arcana, an Undying Light Warlock who was a half drow who was actually scared of the dark. So having these light powers actually helped her.
That's kind of funny. I like. I think some of the quirks were like one of the quirks is like you always have to have a light present. So that
Yep.
yeah. So that absolutely makes sense. So Cathal 17 has a question. It doesn't actually mean anything to me, but maybe it does to you.
Yep.
Any any news about the DCA fanzine? Any plans, cool ideas, or people
Yep.
involved yet?
So this is a project which I'm just starting work on. So a zine is like a small, like independent publication, like a magazine,
Mhm.
and you get them a lot online nowadays. So we're making one for DCA and for the Waffle Crew community, which will be raising money for Child's Play charity. And we're getting like artists involved, writers, homebrew, content creators. Like it's not just going to be an art scene, but it's like a zine for this online community. So we're trying to involve all the different people who are in this community. We're still accepting applications for it until January the 25th. They're closing at 12 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. And then after that, we're going to start work on it and get all the artists together and talking about their submissions.
Have you reached out to Night Mage at all?
I haven't, no. I've been reaching out to lots of the community artists who do lots of Waffle Crew stuff and getting them to apply, but there's been a lot more applications than I expected. So we're at the 60 mark at the moment.
Okay.
I expected maybe 30 if we were lucky.
He does a lot of charity stuff, so it sounds like something that would be up his alley.
So that was Night Mage.
Night Mage, yeah.
I'll definitely have to look him up actually.
Oh, he's like I want to say he's the best male cosplayer. He does it.
Okay.
He does an amazing Spawn. Like Todd McFarlane shared his Spawn. A bunch of other ones as well, but they're really good. And he's always doing stuff for charity.
Okay.
So Matt has a question. What would you say was your cosplay moment you're the most proud of?
Mm, well, I have entered a few competitions, and like whilst those have been points of accomplishment for me, probably the moment I'm most proud of would be um, meeting Holly Conrads in my Strix outfit because, uh, well, she and I have been friends online for like about a year now, and then actually getting to meet her in person as her character was an amazing experience. And also meeting the C team and the Acquisitions Inc. guys in our C team cosplay group because we got a whole group of all four of the characters and we got to meet some of their players and just seeing the looks on their faces made everything worth it.
That has got to be really cool too. Is when you get in front of the people that kind of made the thing that inspired the thing that you did, and you impress them.
Yeah. just seeing like the look of awe on their faces when they realize that one, people have liked these characters so much to want to bring them to life, and two, holy shit, someone actually made my character and looks like my character and is standing in front of me. That's a pretty amazing feeling.
Which is so cool. So, what characters are you playing now? Because you said you've got 3 games going on.
Yeah, so I've got Valiant, who's the one I was talking about before, the Shadow Sorcerer, who's in Power Score's Tomb of Annihilation game. I've got Avelina, who is she's the other tiefling, who is a multi-classed rogue warlock tiefling, who, like, with her, I'm definitely playing on all the what's the perceptions of tieflings and the whole she's trying to fight against people thinking that she's an evil spawn of hell, and whilst at the same time she's sort of leaning into that legacy by taking those warlock classes, those warlock levels. And then the last character is the Avariel character, who she is a Horizon Walker ranger. And let me tell you, having a Horizon Walker with a fly speed definitely breaks a few elements of the game. So that she's in my Planescape game, and all I can say is I'm very glad that they revised it so you can sense one portal closest to you in like a 1 mile range, as opposed to every portal within a mile and where it goes to, because in Sigil that would send you mad.
Yeah, I can imagine. Yeah, I can imagine their ability to teleport is really strong with a flyer.
Yeah, already that she gets Misty Step, which doesn't count against her spells known, and having that and then the fly speed, and then you can take things like Zephyr Strike, which give you the extra movement speed after you've taken a shot, is very strong.
So is that what you did? Double down on all the movement spells?
I doubled down on some of them, but also sort of lent into some of the roleplay stuff with her, like having speak with animals or protection from good and evil, and all of those.
Although the ranger doesn't get very many spells, so it's it's a little tough.
Yeah, but it's nice with the Horizon Walker getting a couple of extra spells, and then all the spells are quite. I think most of them are similar to the Druid class list.
Yes,
because I know that you get some unique spells for the ranger, but then most of the others are shared with the Druid.
That's actually one of the things I really like about 5e is the unique ranger spells and the unique paladin spells. Like a lot, especially with the paladin spells, it's like a lot of times you just look at the name and you go, "Oh, that's a paladin spell."
Yeah, yeah, and then, I do love that, and it can lend to making such unique characters or interesting characters. Because there's some spells you won't use unless you're playing a certain type of character.
So your tieflings, are you playing them out? Are you playing the regular tiefling or are you playing variants?
Playing just regular. In the story reasons, Val actually wasn't always a tiefling, but she was ever since like a life-changing event in her past. And I have considered making her an abyssal tiefling, talking with Sean, my DM, about that, but I mainly just play El Clasico because I really do like having that Hellish Rebuke option.
Are you familiar with like so you play Planescape and you're familiar with Planescape? Are you familiar with tieflings from previous editions?
Yes, and how Planescape made them popular and having all the plain touch tieflings.
Yeah, yes. Yeah. I only ask because you're significantly younger than me. But no, because one of my pet peeves about 5e is making them the cursed race society thing. I don't really. I guess it's just what I'm used to is them being, oh, you have demon or a devil in the woodpile somewhere. It's like your great granddaddy, and I just prefer that over the this whole society made a deal with Asmodeus.
Yeah, I think that was the deal with fourth edition. It was that they're their own society. I think that might still be the case in something like Pathfinder. But I like how 5e sort of reverted that to, oh, you probably have some of it in your bloodline somewhere. Your parents may not even be tieflings. And they've sort of rolled back and gone back to the Planescape and AD&D options there.
Zareth has a cosplay question for you.
Yep.
When cosplaying with armor, is it better to use metal or other materials?
I don't know many people who use actual metal for their armor, just because it's not very accessible. Most people I know will just use EVA foam, so like the foam anti-fatigue floor mats, or just rolls of that. Or people also use something called Warbler, which is it's a heat malleable plastic which you can melt over stuff to create shapes. Most people will just use foam though, because it's cheap and it's really light, so it's easy to wear.
Who do you look up to in the cosplay community? Like, when you got into it, was there someone that kind of got you into it?
Those getting me into it was mostly some of my friends who had been doing it and just doing it for fun, but I have people who I look up into the community. My friend Henchwench, who she is really amazing. She does a lot of WoW builds, done like the Death Knight or the Shaman. Her stuff is always really awe-inspiring, but she's like me, she loves making things. So I like seeing what she does. I have we've got a very talented community in Australia. Major Sam is also another one. She does lots of sewing, and she does lots of the old techniques of embroidery and corsetry. And she is also someone who is quite big in our community down here, because both of these people have gone over to the US to compete. So they're both people who I look up to. Then I have my friends in my Planescape game where it's actually, we're all cosplayers. So we've got Henchwench and my friend's Zaffi cosplay. She does a lot of League of Legends and Overwatch stuff. And she was actually the one who got plane shifted by the Night Hag. So she's a very good player. She doesn't normally go for the goody two shoes characters, but she's just a fantastic player. And my friends at Scrap Shop Props, who they make usually big builds, like from Overwatch. They've done a huge Reinhardt cosplay. They also play in my Planescape game, and I find what they do amazing, because they do just these huge costumes, but still make them, like, they can still move in them, and they're amazing.
Yeah, that is crazy when you see some of the costumes and they're like a mech. Like,
yes,
it's like, how do you even move in that? Like some of those bigger costumes like that. Are you familiar with like how long it just takes to like kit up and suit up?
With the Reinhardts, I know that because Scrap Shop are a team of two. They've got one person who, like, they both work on the costume, but they've got one person who's actually in the costume, and then they've got a handler there to make sure that he has water, that he can move and just get around. It probably takes them about an hour to get into it, but then it's actually getting the costume to the venue, which is the hard part for them.
I can imagine. And like you said, you got to go to the restroom, and it takes an hour to put on this costume.
Yeah. For some of that, it's like you have to either prepare beforehand or just hold it in.
Yeah, yeah. You got to suffer for your art. That's what it comes down to.
Yep. It wouldn't be cosplay unless you had several heat gun burns and a general hating for some of the costume once you're done with it.
So Will Wolf has a question for you. I believe he works in a tattoo parlor. Have you ever considered doing tattoo flash with a D&D theme? The art you have for Evelyn, Strix, and Dieth look like they'd be have a traditional feel, I'd get one.
I have made some of my drawings with tattoos in mind, mainly because I'm thinking of getting a Strix tattoo, just because that was something which just getting into dice camera action was a really good thing for me. It's helps me meet so many wonderful people, and it was sort of my my introduction to the D&D community online. I do like the style of a lot of tattoos, and I find them really fun to draw just because they've got this very striking visual look about them. So I would definitely sign tattoos if people wanted me to.
How do you pronounce Evelyn?
So with her character, she's made a point of her character is her name is pronounced Evelyn with like that long E sound. And I remember Anna Prosa Robinson actually correcting Chris Perkins in the first episode, saying, "Oh, it's not Evelyn, it's Evelyn."
Yeah, get it right.
Yeah.
Like I said, I don't actually watch the gameplay, so I haven't heard them pronounced.
Oh, her character is fantastic. A Southern Belle Paladin of Lathander who's like always happy and always wants to protect the light and loves her friends and thinks everything is a pet.
And thinks everything's a pet?
Yep. I mean, I think that's half the reason why they have an owlbear now.
Oh man, I have several players that are like that. They try and friend all the monsters.
Yep, that's definitely the case with our Tomb of Annihilation party. We've got Mistletoe the Druid, who he likes talking with everything, and then my character Val actually has a friend, Froghemoth. So
he's definitely not be friends with Froghemoth.
Except he's a runt Froghemoth, so he's like albino and about 5 feet shorter than normal. He's a very lovable oaf vegetarian. His name is Hoppy. He's a good boy.
He's a pygmy Froghemoth.
Yes.
That's funny. In my game, they're constantly making friends with all the monsters. I find as a GM, the trick is to let them and then have one of the monsters eat their faces. Yeah,
we had to sort of train Hoppy because Hoppy is a vegetarian, but he is a curious vegetarian who wants to try everything. So it was early on we had to train him. No, you don't eat that. No, don't eat that rabbit. No, don't eat me.
Friends aren't food.
Friends aren't food.
Yeah.
And now he gives very tentacly hugs to everyone. I love the way that Sean plays him because it's just such a unique part of the game, and it's not your typical type of pet. People will go for the cuddly things, not the huge frog monster.
Yeah, in one of my games, one of the monsters ended up being a Nothic. It was a Nothic that got mutated by a chaos storm. So it was like the size of an ogre or a hill giant, and it had all these like purple amethyst crystals for jutting out of its spine. And
wow.
Murphy McMuffin Top is what the players named him. And yes, so we have like these storm chasers. These storm chasers in our world, they follow these chaos storms, and then they like try and harvest things that have been touched by chaos. And this one group was using the Nothic as a tracker.
That's a very good idea.
Yeah, but they would keep it in a metal box, basically, except for when they wanted it to work. And it was one of the adventures I ran, Trouble with Prospectors, because we called them Chaos Storm Prospectors. So there was like two different groups that were like fighting over a claim when a chaos storm happens, and the box gets struck by weird chaos lightning, and this thing erupts out of it, and he grabs a couple of the prospectors, and then the adventurers have to rescue them. And then like the adventurers realize, wait a minute, they've actually been kind of tormenting this Nothic and have been keeping it in a box all this time and using it to work. And they're like, maybe the monster wasn't really the monster. So
I like the idea of like of subverting player expectation and making your players think. I find that well, D&D is the perfect tool for telling stories and for doing things not by the book.
No, it's definitely great, and I love it when my players do stuff like that because sometimes you have to you then have to flip it back to what would be considered the normal, and then they're like they've gotten used to being able to get away with some stuff, and then all of
Yeah.
a sudden then the monster they're trying to friend this time is like trying to eat their face, or like this one particular party I knew they always try and do that with the monsters, so I used a wraith baby.
Oh no.
And I knew it was just going to be horrible. So, because I just knew what they were going to do. But, that makes it so much more fun.
Yeah.
And I
And
feel like by allowing the players to occasionally befriend the monsters, then you get to have cool moments like that when they're just totally going to be blindsided.
yes, I find it can also lead to some really good story moments, or if they use the monsters in really interesting ways. That's that's D&D, is seeing what your players come up with.
So, TrueMate wants to know if you've ever built an internal cooling unit for big cosplays.
I haven't done too many like huge oversized costumes, so I haven't, but I know people who have, and I know people who also have like had to have ice packs in their costumes just because it's summer and they're wearing a huge leather coat and they're dying of heat exhaustion.
Ugh.
So luckily I haven't had to, but I try and make my costumes at least somewhat ventilated with the fabrics and what I'm using.
So good planning, good planning. It's
Well, I
essential.
try to nowadays because I've had some bad experiences in the past.
Well, I can commiserate with that. Most of my lessons are learned the hard way.
Oh yeah,
So
well, that's how
Matt,
you learn.
absolutely. Matt has a question. Are there any art mediums that you've really wanted to get into or get better with?
Um, that's just art to me. You always want to try new things and get better with things. One I've never really been able to get very good at, but fascinates me is digital art. Just because I do all my stuff is like pen and paper or actual paint or printmaking, but the digital medium is very alien to me.
Is that a direction you'll eventually move into, or are you
I've
going to stay away from the aliens?
I've learned a few things about it in one of my university courses, but it's something which I find takes a lot more like mental effort for me to actually do, and then I find it's never as good as my pen and paper stuff. So it's something which I would need to give some more practice and more thought before I was actually comfortable with it. And art is still like a comfort and relaxation thing for me in the end. It's something I just go, well, just put everything aside and I can just be sort of mindless while I'm drawing and get into this state.
It's funny you should say that because we had Sarah Dillinger on yesterday, and she's been working as a professional artist for a while, and she basically said the same thing about working digitally. I mean, she I think she does work digitally now, but she had that same experience.
Yeah, it's a completely different learning curve because you're not learning to work with these different materials. You're learning to work with the system, and like you're at the you're at the mercy of your computer, unfortunately, which
But
is
I, I
not the position to be in.
but I guess the other thing is, if you need to make changes, a lot of times they're a lot easier to make.
Oh yeah, just being able to undo and like Control Z.
So you said you're going to school, you're studying art now. What is it you'd like to do with that?
Um, so my degree, I'm actually majoring in textiles. So it's a Bachelor of Visual Arts, majoring in textiles. So I'm learning all these really interesting things. What I thought I wanted to do was get into like costume design and do that for theatre and theatrical productions, but nowadays I think that I want to mainly work on the art side of things. The current plan is I want to apply for one of the Wizards of the Coast freelance positions at the end of the year, but once I finish my degree, because I think that I want to turn my passion into something I do for a living.
Well, I mean, in this day and age, it's like easier than ever. You know, maybe that route, because I'm sure there are tons of people vying for Wizards of the Coast, but you could definitely, you know, become an artist, and hey, I would go for it.
And I mean, I like making things as well. Like on the side, I make resin dice and make little bits and pieces. So having like a large range of skills is probably a good thing. And the plan at the moment is when I eventually make Zugdemoy, I want to bring her over to the States for PAX West.
Oh, cool. When is PAX West?
I believe it's in September, but the dates haven't been announced yet.
So
I really want them to announce the dates so I can start booking things.
so that's the plan for 2018. You're gonna hit PAX West.
Yep, that is the plan. Probably bring Strix, bring Zugdemoy, and camp outside Wizards of the Coast until someone lets me in.
Hey, well, I think if you show up as a trash witch, maybe they'll just let you in.
I'll just start living in the dumpsters outside. It's fine.
Just that, so you just impersonate Holly Conrad, and they'll just think, they'll think they're letting her in, and you'll be in. Bam.
Sorry, Holly.
Well, I imagine too. You know some people over Wizards of the Coast, so that's going to make things a lot easier for you as well.
So I do talk with a few of them online, and have a few of them following me, like Richard Witters, who makes amazing. He's one of the artists they have on the team for D&D. Does lots of the character portraits, and he is really amazing at what he does. And yeah, sometimes talk with Chris Perkins. He's fantastic. DM goals right there. But it's nice because all of the Wizards of the Coast staff are just really down to earth, and they care about the community and care about the creators in the community, that's one of the things I like about the D&D community online is that everyone is just talking with each other all the time. Everyone is wanting to know about what other people do, and it feels like a family and feels very open.
No, I couldn't agree more. It is a great community, and the people at Wizards of the Coast, they're out there, with the community, which has got to be hard because there's so many people probably vying and clamoring for their attention.
Yeah,
I imagine it's got to be overwhelming.
It's the idea that they actually care about what they're making and care about the people who are consuming the product, which is it's very heartening to see.
Speaking of Robert, I believe the beginning of the month we've got him scheduled. I have to look at the calendar, but he's going to be on, so we'll be talking some D&D with him.
Oh, that's fantastic. He is very good at what he does.
And then we had a while back we had John, whose last name has way too many letters in it and I cannot pronounce. Cincinnati, something like that. He was the art director for Wizards of the Coast, pretty much. I guess all the way for Wizards of the Coast up until recent.
Yeah.
So he's seen like all the editions and touched all the art on all the editions of D&D.
Everything since they were bought out by from TSR.
Yeah. So that was really cool. He had a lot of fun and cool stories.
Because there's been a huge shift in the art styles, which is one of the things I love seeing from older editions, is seeing how the art style changed. Though I think some of my favorite artists still from Planescape, the Tony DiTerlizzi stuff, because it's just so unique.
Yeah,
and it really gives you a feel for what the world is like.
Planescape and Dark Sun, they just always had the most unique feels to them. And of all the D&D art, you just look and you're like, oh, that's Darkstone or that's Planescape. You just know.
Yeah.
Where maybe some of the other stuff was, it was a bit more difficult to pick out who did it by looking at it. And then they really updated the art style with third edition, with Todd Lockwood, and the monsters actually like being more anatomically correct with how they were drawn. And then, I guess with 4E, you got a little more anime-ish with the style of art.
Yeah, really trying to emulate that MMO video game feeling.
And then with 5E, it's kind of, we're almost back to like, I want to say like first and second edition style art, but with updated techniques and skill.
They've hit a good balance with it, which is something which I really admire, is that they've taken note of like all the past editions art and they're sort of combining it into something which works.
Yeah, exactly. It's like they've like fifth edition mechanically and visually is like an amalgamation of all the previous editions, and it's like they just found all the best stuff and picked it out and put it in.
That's why I play fifth edition, is just because it takes the best of a lot of things whilst also making it accessible.
Yeah, it was that is one of the really interesting things I found about Adventures League, and when they were putting together the rules, and when Mike Merles was talking about the PHB +1 and how that came about, and I just assumed it was to make it easier for the GMs, but where he told the story of seeing kids watching a game of D&D being played, and them like, oh, I would really like to play this game. This game looks like a lot of fun. And one of the kids going, yeah, but look at all the maps, minis, and books. It's got to be really expensive. And for them to be thinking like that deep into the game of like, how does it look from someone looking at it for the first time? Does it look accessible?
And the fact of just having the one player's handbook and the one Dungeons Master's Guide and Monster Manual, and everything else just being like, it's a nice extra. Like Xanathar's is definitely not required to play any game, but it's nice to have those extra options. And same with stuff like Volos or any of the actual adventure books. They're nice to have because they have lots of extra information. They've got the beautiful art and everything, but you don't need them to start playing D&D.
No, absolutely not. I mean, now it's a good portion of it's online, and you could start for free. You just go online and get the basics at least. So the hobby's more accessible than ever. We've got tons of streams where people can watch and see how it's being played for the first time. Yeah. So it's just it's a good place to be.
Having the streams is definitely something which pushed me to get back into playing, because I played a little bit in high school back in 4th edition, but I found that, I don't know, something about it didn't really click. Maybe it was the people I was playing with, maybe it was part of the rules, but seeing people play online and seeing how the system actually worked and how it could be used and how it could be tweaked actually made me want to go back and start playing and start DMing again.
Well, welcome back. That is like one of my favorite things to hear too, is when we hear from other gamers that are coming back to the hobby. And I feel like we're also getting a lot of people that left the hobby for adulting or whatever reasons they did, and 5e has been a really great bridge for that, because if you left any edition, it doesn't actually matter. Like, you look at 5e and there's elements from that edition in the game that they can recognize.
Yeah. Like, there's still a good grounding for anyone who's played in the past, or even people who have just played video games. You've got a good base to start with. It was definitely easier for me because I do play a lot of the D&D video games, like love Baldur's Gate, love Planescape Torment. Recently been playing, it's not an official D&D game, but uses some of the similar rules, Divinity Original Sin 2. That's been a huge time sink for me. I've definitely stayed up playing that longer than I should have. But
we are
games, yeah.
we are right up on the hour mark, and I know it is like super early for you, and I do appreciate you coming on and hanging out with us, guys. Scarlet Moth in the description. You can find links to social media, website. Go check out all the stuff that Scarlet Moth has going on. Follow on Twitter, all that good stuff. Thank you guys for hanging out with us. I greatly appreciate it. And until next time, stay nerdy.